Hello everybody, welcome back to the NXST LEAP Academy, sponsored by NuParadym and DSO Marketing Next. I'm your host, Marc Heffner, and today we're going to talk about how I develop content. Quite a few people come to me and say, hey Marc, what's your secret to producing so much content out there? If you take a look, you'll see me posting out on LinkedIn 4 to 5 times a week now. Now I only do one post a day. Some people do multiple ones, but LinkedIn generally doesn't like it when you do more than 2 posts in a day. LinkedIn loves the long form content. I develop content specifically for the dental industry and dental marketing. So I use a lot of the large language models. I use ChatGPT, I use Gemini, I use Claude, I use Grok, and to just a little bit Perplexity. I also use it for research and other things. So I'm going to walk you through kind of a process I do to help develop content. I've loaded up 3 specific pieces of information. I did research on some special topics I did prior. Now I want to delve into it. What I've created is to help me with my content are personalized GPTs. So in those personalized GPTs, I've basically cloned myself. You can put in a bunch of instructions and samples of my writing. So I've been writing for a few years. It has a sample and understanding of how I write. I have definite writing style as I developed my personal GPT. I grew up in Southern California. I have learned over the years that the way I write is different than somebody who writes from the East Coast or someone who writes from the Midwest or the Northeast. Everybody has their own writing style, and if you've been writing for a long time and you come from a newspaper background, you're going to write a totally different style, and you're going to write to that style. So you got to train your personalized GPT on how you write. And I'm not going to go deep into how you develop a personal GPT. We'll talk about that in another video, but it's called the NXST LEAP Marketing AI. And this is what I use to help develop content for the NXST LEAP Academy. I focus on marketing. I also focus on other things. It knows how I think. It knows kind of what I want. I really don't need to do a lot with it. It doesn't need to go out to the internet and get a whole bunch of stuff. It knows a lot about me. I'm going to put 3 articles in here that I wanted to do research on. The research or the articles I've already put together, and I'm just going to load them in so it already has that, it can have that content and it can review it. So I've loaded 3 different research topics that I did a while ago. And specifically, I did them on Claude. And now I'm going to put them into chat. And I want to ask chat a question about the articles. And I always start off with a real simple question. And that question really is, hi chat. Tell me about these 3 articles. I wanted to make sure that it understands what it sees. Real simple. Here is chat looking through the articles and telling me what it sees. I did this original research in Claude, and now I'm bringing this over to here. And I've talked in other videos about having a full suite of products to use. You don't just use one large language model, you use multiple large language models. And I've talked about Claude in the past as being a place where you go and clean things up, make things a little bit better in your tone of voice and to help you, but it's still a good tool for research. So I use that, and then now I've pulled that over here into chat. Claude was very lopsided when it did its research because I asked a very broad question and I wanted to be broad in its answer, but it came in when I read this information that it was very Claude specific. The next thing I want to go is I want to ask chat, do you think these articles are one-sided? Let's plop in that prompt really quick. Let me read the prompt. Is this article Claude Project's secret weapon of content brand voice accurate or one-sided? And now it's giving me his opinion. Here's what it gave me. It gave me what it does right, what's missing or overlooked. It has competitive limitations. The article downplays or omits that Claude lacks rich multimodal capabilities. And that's one of the things I talked about in a prior video, how-to video, is multimodal capabilities. And that's what I mean by being able to move across different LLMs. You need to use different LLMs to understand what they're good at. And if you understand what they're good at, it can help scale your marketing and your use of generative AI or generative artificial intelligence in your marketing business, and not just in the marketing side, but also in operations, clinical, and financial. Any part of your business you're using, multimodal modes will help your organization become more efficient in using AI and understanding what's going on with your business. Things that used to take days and weeks to get to can now take you hours and minutes. That is the holy grail, shall I say, of using generative AI. It's not that generative AI is running your business. It is that you're using these tools so you can execute faster and get to answers quicker. You can move your organizations faster. Because in today's environment, the slower you move, you're going to be left behind. Business has been picking up for decades. It's been going faster and faster and faster. Now with generative AI, things are even going to start to move at warp speed. The next thing we really want to ask Chat after it's done its little look is it asked me a question on it. And what I want to say to Chat is it is accurate but one-sided, more of a product advocacy piece than a neutral comparison. Like I said, Claude is one-sided. I don't like that. But hey, I guess we all have our biases. What I really want to do is, yes, I'm going to ask Chat, hey, yes, give me a balanced comparison table showing all three with updated information as of today after the scanning of the internet for the most recent information. Again, we want to look at ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini in this comparison. Okay, now Chat is going out to the internet to take a look. What does it see? It's brought back project memory, told me about tone and voice, total reasoning. It's done the pros and cons of it. And then it's given me a couple of other ideas of what I can do with it. Really, the next thing is context modes. The original article, Claude Project's Content Creator Secret Weapon, is accurate but promotional. It highlights Claude's strengths. It tells me all the places that it's gone to go get additional information. Now, if I want to spend more time on it, I could actually go into deep research. The next question I really want to ask it is after it's done all of this. It gave me a balance sheet. Here's an updated balance comparison of Anthropic's Claude, ChatGPT, and Google's Gemini as of June 21st, 2025. If you're looking at this later on, call it August, September 2026, 2027, this information is not up to date. Remember, these models change rapidly and change frequently. Talks about what the tokens are, how many tokens each has, which is a part of the information that we have out there. Talks about the reasoning, and then it gives me a summary of what it's doing. Talks to me about the structure, talks to me about the breakdown. Which should you choose? Go with Claude Projects if you need branded consistency, long-term project memory, and deep multi-step reasoning without reliance on real-time web data. Choose ChatGPT Pro for web-enabled tasks, personalized interactions, and growth and growing ecosystems of tools. Now, I do use ChatGPT for a lot of stuff. It has Sora, it also has a connection to Canva, and it has lots of other things that it can do for you. And then you opt for Gemini 2.5 Pro when your workflow involves inputs, large context needs, and real-time processing. And that's kind of how I use all of these three. If you want to do a deep dive into any of these tailored recommendations for your startup content strategy, let them know. I said, yes, give me an example of where each one excels in specific marketing and creative scenarios. I popped that in. It gives me the breakdown, and it popped out this information for me. Tell me where Claude was really strong. It was best for brand consistency and long-form strategy. Just some of the things I've talked about in my videos. Now, if you want to talk about operations, you could put in operations in here. If you want to talk about financials, you can talk about financials in here, where each one's in Excel. But since I'm a marketing guy, I wanted to focus on marketing today. Basically, it tells me here is a breakdown between Claude Projects, ChatGPT, Gemini, and where each one shines specifically into marketing. Claude really talks about best of brand consistency, a long-form strategy. Scenario, I've kind of talked about this in my past videos. Claude is really good at brand consistency and long-form strategy. It coughs up ChatGPT 4.0, again, if you're looking at this a lot later, we might have moved on to ChatGPT 5.0, 6.0, who knows? Just remember that if you're looking at this as an older video. Best for real-time research, voice matching, content multiplication. So you can do, it says about multiplication. I can actually do 3 or 4 different pieces of content simultaneously in ChatGPT that I've noticed. And it helps me push the process along. Instead of doing 1 piece of content, I can do 3, sometimes 4 at the same time. And I can put together 4 different pieces, especially when I'm doing a arc. When I call it an arc of information and strategy session where I want to talk about multiple things, but none of us want to be tied up in a video for an hour or reading 25,000 words. I'll break those down into a little bit easier to digest. It really can help me in doing that type of planning for my content.